Hello. Today I'll be talking about the Jesse Wells song Fentanyl. I think it is a very important one to talk about because it talks about some very, of course, a lot of his songs talk about real world problems, but I feel like this one affects a lot of just everyday people. But before we get started, I'd like to point out my new shirt. I got it yesterday. It arrived, and it's so cute, and I love it. Here's the back. I don't know if you saw it, but that's okay. Um, I love it. And they said that it would ship April 30th, but it came earlier than that, so I'm very happy about that. And it's very comfortable. But anyway, talking about this song, the first point I'd like to make is I like how it talks about China's role in the drug production of fentanyl, because so many people only know drug traffickers from mostly being from Central and South America. But in actuality, as a medicinal drug, most of it comes from China and then is shipped over to America and Mexico and all that sort of thing to be further processed and sold to the health industry. And I think that is a not very talked about part of fentanyl specifically. I don't really know about like a lot of other more dangerous drugs. I'm sure, like, I know China makes a lot of medicinal products and prescriptions that are sold in the West. I'm not 100% sure about their role in like other street drugs, so I can't really comment on those. But a good chunk of fentanyl originated from China and is still shipped from China into other countries to be further processed down. So while a lot of Central American countries have a role in the distribution of the fentanyl, a lot of the production is from China. And I think that role is largely not spoken about because it's easier for the American government to blame people from Central and South American countries because the American people already discriminate so heavily against them. They already view them as criminals and drug smugglers. And so it's a lot easier for the government to sit there and blame those people for all these drug problems because they already have that preconceived notion. And I think that fuels their anti uh, like immigration messages and the general hatred towards Hispanic individuals in America. It's furthering the divide in the nation. Whereas if you continue to acknowledge China's role, people already hate China. So like you could argue that it would do the same thing. But I feel like specifically with drugs, more people discriminate against Central and South American countries than they would China. And so it just is kind of like the seeds are already there. And so by not acknowledging China's role, they're playing into that and they're watering those seeds is kind of my point. Um, and then the other point I wanted to talk about was kind of the dehumanization and blame that drug addicts face, even though they're not. While yes, everyone is responsible for their actions, I feel like people don't talk about the reasons behind things. So many people want to sit there and blame drug addicts for the situations they're in, or homeless people for the situations they're in, but then they don't acknowledge the systemic reasons for those. Mental health issues that are only increasing because of the way society works, um, and healthcare systems prescribing addictive drugs. They both so heavily contribute to the drug epidemic. They are the reasons for the drug epidemic. If the mental health crisis wasn't as bad as it was, people would not feel the need to self-medicate. And if doctors didn't prescribe as many addictive painkillers or benzodiazepines, then people would not get addicted through them through the healthcare system. And that makes up for such a large portion of the people addicted to opioids and is practically the entire reason that people are addicted to benzodiazepines. Obviously, I don't have a statistic for that. But that's the other thing with this, is that it's highly underreported because of that. Because what is a drug addict? That's not really a definable thing. That is more something that people have to reckon with themselves. It's like a doctor can say that you are likely a drug addict because your tolerances to drugs and all that sort of thing, but it is largely a self-diagnosed thing that you have to realize within yourself that you are addicted to a substance. So because it is not something that can be properly reported, because we can report kind of the amount of people that take certain drugs through prescriptions, but are they addicted to them? We don't know that, because lots of people take benzodiazepines and are not addicted to them. Lots of people take certain painkillers that are not addicted to them because, they are on them for an extended period of time, or their doses aren't very high. And so calculating the number of drug addicts is practically impossible, especially because of people also buying street drugs, which would not be documented unless they were arrested for it. So how many drug addicts are there? How many people have been affected by doctors prescribing drugs to them? We don't know. And so, lots of people like to argue that this isn't as big of a problem as you think it is. But if you actually interact with individuals in rehabilitation centers, in clinics specifically for drug treatment and all that sort of thing, you will know it is a huge problem that the health industry prescribes. It was OxyContin for a very long time. They would prescribe it and people would get addicted to it. And then most of the time, when people get addicted to that, they get a certain dosage from their doctor, and the dosage goes up, goes up, and goes up. And then after a certain point, the doctor cuts you off. But your tolerance doesn't get cut off. That's not how that works. So people will go and they will take different drugs because their tolerance to that one is too high, or they will obtain the higher dose through illegal methods. Unfortunately, it's the steps of how so many people's lives go. And so to sit here and blame those people for that is completely unfair, in my opinion. Like I said, yes, people are responsible for their individual actions, but if you don't acknowledge the reasons for it that are not their fault, then you're not fully understanding the problem. You're just discriminating against a group of people that are less fortunate than you. That's simply what that is. And I think that is a very important thing for people to know. And another reason why I think this song is good particularly is that it mentions the financial reasons that people will discriminate more against certain individuals. We're very classist when it comes to our judgment of drug addicts. Famous people that are drug addicts or sadly overdose or die, it's a national tragedy when they die. And, it should be a tragedy. But when you read about people dying in your town of drug overdoses, oh, well, they did it to themselves, is what people say. Why is that so different? Why is one a tragedy and one is just the way things are? It's entirely unfair. Suddenly you have money and it's no longer as trashy as when you don't have money. It's disgusting. It's a horrible double standard that we hold. It should be a tragedy no matter your circumstance. And the last point I would like to talk about in this song is how it's a business for so many companies that drug addiction remains within our cities. Similarly to the song Cancer, this one talks about how different businesses will profit from drugs not being solved. Companies that are paid to treat drugs, such as I'm not 100% sure of the specific company that makes Narcan, but they profit from it. Because, yes, you might argue that lots of places get Narcan for free, but it's not the pharmaceutical company giving it out like candy. It's usually a charity or your local emergency services that have paid for those to give out for free. And so that company is profiting. And then other companies that make drugs that are supposed to treat drug addiction, such as the drug naltrexone, that is used to treat urges and cravings for drugs. Well, someone's got to pay for that. So whether it's the individual consumer or it's an insurance company, doesn't matter. Someone is paying for that, which is leading to a pharmaceutical company getting money. And so even though these are drugs to treat it, to cure it, supposedly, you don't actually get cured from it, because so far that's not how drug addiction works. There's no magic pill that makes the addiction go away. And so if you continue to use that drug, they're getting their money. And of course, if people are prescribed these drugs that they're addicted to, well, then that's also giving money to the pharmaceutical company. And then so many doctors are also paid to prescribe these things. Like when Oxycontin was a huge epidemic, first starting out, doctors were paid to prescribe it. So it's like, it's the trickle-down effect of people earning money from tragedies like this. And I think he also talks about in this kind of wrongful government spending in this. Like he says right here, send dough to the enforcement, they build another jail. Give money to a hammer, they're gonna buy a nail. It's kind of the idea that we've often looked at drugs as punishment. We've looked at punishment for it and not rehabilitation. And while I think there has been a gradual shift in treatment, just because if you put every drug addict in prison, we don't have fucking enough prisons, and that's not the way to treat it, because people are still able to get drugs in prison, and then also too, the second they leave, they're still going to be drug addicts. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Prison does not fix people's lives. It's not what it's designed to do. And punishment is not enough to make people stop using drugs. It just simply doesn't work. It's cruel, and that's it. And it wastes taxpayer money. But at the end of the day, someone gets paid to build that jail. And so it is still the steps and steps and steps that are making someone money that incentivizes the issue to actually not get solved. And the solutions to the problem are not easy ones either. And again, more financial motive, because I personally believe that a lot of the reason why the drug epidemic is the way it is because of mental health problems that are perpetuated by our overly exploitative society. Every single person is exploited for something, more or less. Obviously, definitely, other people have it worse than others. But everyone's exploited for something, for someone else's gain. Everyone works for a company where someone is getting paid 100 times what they're getting paid for doing less work. That is sadly how the world works right now. And so I think a lot of people taking drugs is because we are not paid adequate amounts to be comfortable. And so I think not only is the drug epidemic a business in and of itself, but solving the drug epidemic would dissolve that, but would also cause everyone else to make more money and would take from billionaires' pockets, basically. Or even not billionaires, just people that generally are higher up and make more than they should. There's a lot of people that aren't billionaires that are still, executives and all that sort of thing, that are multimillionaires while their employees suffer. And while I think that's one reason, it's a big one that sadly for now is not changing. And so for while our society is not comfortable, people are going to suffer, and people are going to self-soothe, and people are going to be drug addicts. And someone is going to continue making money off of that. Kind of a depressing note to leave off of, but this is where I will leave you. Please go check out Jesse Wells if you haven't already. Amazing songwriter. You have to listen to him. You have to. And I will see you later. Bye-bye.